One paycheck away from being homeless. As you may know, there are many people living on the streets, and you may ask the question, why? Why is this person homeless? Why is this person begging? Are they on drugs? Why they're not paying their bills on time, or why they're not paying their bills at all? Don't they have family? And these are a lot of questions I used to ask myself. And how could a person become homeless? And there are many jobs out here. Well, one of my greatest fears being homeless. Because I was an orphan and I lived in different homes when I was a child, seeing that my parents had passed away and the abuse that happened to me in my life, ended up putting myself and my siblings in a foster home. We stayed in a group home for a little while, and we ended up going to different foster homes trying to find an adequate home for us to stay in. And that was terrifying for a child my age. And I was just 12 years old around that time. Um, Going through that was a very trying time in my life. So I vowed that I would work hard and I would not be homeless. And my kids would not go through this. Well, many years down the line, I became a mother, teen mother, raised my kids, went to work, worked two jobs to take care of my children, to do the best I can. I was married to their dad at the time, and then I went through a divorce after that. I found myself remarrying later on down the line after that. And we end up going through this devastating trial. We went end up being homeless. I lived in a group home with my children, which was a family home for just women and children in New Orleans, Methodist home. I believe that was the name of it. But my husband stayed in another shelter, which was like Salvation Army, just for men. And we stayed in these different shelters for about a year. And it was a blessing to us as a family, but it still was a trying time for us as a family. My kids and I stayed in the family for women and children. We shared one room together. I still worked. I worked at Oxner. Who knew that still working a full-time job and did not make ends meet to pay my bills? And my husband had lost his job. So he ended up staying in the shelter for the men, but looked for a job every day. He ended up going to another state trying to find work as well. And we came back together. While I stayed in a group home with my children, we had to save our money. I saved up to $400 to put on the deposit for my apartment. My children were fed every day. They went to school every day. I went to work every day. Those were the rules. You had to go to work. You had to look for work. And it was a blessing to be in a shelter because my kids were not on the street. And I thank God for that shelter. And I thank God for the opportunity for those, um, gifts that those people gave us, a lot of knowledge on what we need to do and how we need to do it. At the time, I was just making maybe $4 to $5 an hour. So I wasn't making a lot of money to take care of the children. And the rent was, at that point, my rent was maybe $550 an hour. I mean, $550 a month, excuse me. And that wasn't a lot, but it still was more for my income. So we got through that. We ended up getting our apartment, and it was a blessing. It was a blessing. And I thank God for that shelter. So I vowed that I will always work hard to make sure that my children do not feel the burden of being homeless. And I thank God for the people that were there at that shelter to help us. Not everybody is on drugs. Not everybody is going through not paying their bills. There are people out here that are trying their best to stay afloat. And it all it takes is one paycheck, and you will find yourself homeless, living with family members, living in your vehicle, living on the street. And we should not look down on people and judge them because of what we see on the surface. There are so many people that have gone through these trials and tribulations. They didn't ask for it. They didn't go out here and do drugs. They didn't, throw away their money. I'm one of those people. I didn't do those things. But I found myself homeless. Many years down the line, now I'm a grandparent. I'm working a better job. I'm making at least 10 to $12 an hour, give or take a few with my temp job, and then I had a full-time job. And I'm working my butt off. My husband is working at another hospital, and we were working hard, working grandparents, determined to take care of our grandchild, to help my daughter with him. And because I didn't want no one in my family to feel that they were not loved and they will be displaced for any reason. I will do whatever I had to do to take care of my grandson. So, working at the hospital where my husband worked at, and I worked at the temp agency. Well, I lost that job at the temp agency. They started downsizing. They didn't have any more places for me to go as far as healthcare was concerned. I didn't have too many private duty sitting jobs to do. So the income started depleting. And well, my rent was at that time, it was, I believe, was $8.90 a month while we was living in Atlanta. Well, I didn't make that anymore. My husband' job was not paying him as much as I was getting paid, but that didn't matter. We found ourselves in between paychecks, and I was waiting for my last check to come from the temp agency. Well, I go to pick up my check, and they tell me the check is not there, that it snowed in Colorado, wherever the check was coming from. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Can you just cut my check like you normally do on a weekly basis? Because they have checks there that they can cut my check. And the guy said, well, we cannot, because we don't have the taxes. And my question was, it didn't matter about the taxes. I have rent to pay, and I have a child that I have to feed and shelter, and I need my money today. It's Friday, and I need my money. Well, the checks will be on Monday. This is the weekend, and I have no money, and I have to pay my rent, and I have to feed my child. So I'm devastated. I'm upset. I'm about to blow a gasket. I just went off. And it hurt me to think that these people did not have a heart to even consider giving me at least half my check or even understand what I was going through. I waited till Monday for my paycheck, and I did not get it. I waited till that following Friday. Now we're homeless. We do not have the rent. We barely have food. My husband's job is not working him the hours that he needs to work. I said, Lord, what are we going to do? We don't have any place to go. I'm in Atlanta. My family is in Louisiana. Where are we going to go? I didn't want to go in the shelters because the shelters were filled with people that were not the type of people I wanted my grandson to be around. And it was scary. I didn't think I would ever fall in this predicament again in my life. And some of you may think, well, what did you do with your money? I paid my bills. Some of you would think, well, you didn't do a great job on budgeting. What is there to budget when you don't have enough to stretch from one week to the next? Some of you can understand my dilemma. And some of you who make a lot more money may not understand. Some of you who have gone down this road may understand how easy it is to fall in this dilemma. Think about it. If you are living in a city where the cost of living is high and your income is not meeting the standards to pay those bills, to keep afloat, to keep a roof over your head, and even if you have a second job, you're still struggling. Some of you may understand that. It is easy to fall into that rut. Well, we stayed in my van for 2 weeks, and it was the scariest moment of my life. All I can think about is, my Lord, what if somebody says that we're living in our van? What if somebody tells OCS? What if they take my grandson? What's going to happen? And I'm doing my best. I love him. I try to cherish the times that we have together. Each night that I prayed for him. I prayed over him. I prayed over our circumstances while I was living in that van. Unlike some people, I had a place to park my van because, like I said, my husband was still working at this major hospital. The scariest thing is that I was scared that someone was going to tell on him and he lose his job. Well, it came to pass. We moved that van from level to level. Every day I would drive the van out and come back in, and later on at night and park it on a different level. And I knew security saw us because it's surveillance camera everywhere. Each day I would go to the bathroom or the cafeteria. I fed him. I gave him a bath. My husband even gave him a shower in the hospital where he worked at because they had a shower for employees. I wasn't an employee, so I couldn't do that. And I tell you my story because there are so many people that have gone down this road. And there are so many people who can attest to what I am going through and how I felt at that time. Because I want you to understand that being homeless and one paycheck away is not a very light subject that you can just say, whatever, it's never going to be me. It can always be you or someone you know. Somebody you know has been down this road. It may be you. Somebody you know will go down this road. Not because they planned it and not because they did not plan to have a better future for themselves. One paycheck away from being homeless. I lived in my van for 2 weeks with my grandson, still waiting for that check. And you know, in between that time of my husband working and we're waiting for his paycheck in those 2 week span also, the IRS levied his last paycheck. You're like, what? Here I am homeless, trying to take care of my grandson, trying to stay positive. And like, okay, Lord, we're about to get out of this. My husband's going to get paid within this week and we'll be back on our feet and I will have another job. I'm instead of looking, I'm instead of praying, I'm instead of thanking the Lord to help us to get through this time. And I'm thanking him for the people that has come along to help us. We ate every day, cafeteria food, but it was a blessing. We had a roof over our heads. It was my van. We were sheltered from the storm, even though it rained outside. The Lord said, you're not in the rain, and you're not underneath the bridge, you're not in the inclement weather, you are in your van. I even had a television ran by batteries. I did everything I could possibly think to stay sane. I prayed and told my grandson stories every night. I even changed him into his pajamas to make it feel like, you know what, it is not as bad as it seems that we're going through, but it was. It was a very devastating experience, but God gave me strength to go through everything that I went through. From me losing my job, to my husband getting hurt on his job, to them firing him on his job, and we're living in a van, and now the IRS has levied his last check. What are we going to do? I don't have any family. My bank account is empty. There's hardly any food. And if I had food, where was I going to put it? It's like, Lord, help me. Help me, Jesus. Well, I must tell you, the Lord helped me through it all. He kept me sane. He sent people to talk to me. He sent people to help me. He sent people to bless us. And we got out of it. I got a job working at another big hospital, making more money. My husband was able to get another job. And that check that the IRS levied sent us a letter stating that they apologized for taking his check. It should have not been levied. And they sent us all of his money back. When I trust God and have faith in Him, that it's going to work out for my good. Like He said, all things work together for your good. It is a fact. It is the truth. God knows and He understands everything that we're going through. And He will never leave us nor forsake us. And I trust and believe in Him every day. So this is why I tell people my story, my testimonies, because I want you to understand that in spite of all you go through, there is a way out. There is a way out, a way of escape. But you trust in the Lord and allow Him to help you, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what it looks like, no matter where you find yourself. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all His ways, He'll direct your path. I trust in Him and I believe in Him in spite of all what I went through. It hurt. My grandson didn't understand. My husband and I were like, why us? My greatest fear had came to pass, and I was wondering, was I going to ever come out of this? Seeing that there are so many people still going through this tragedy, this devastating period in their life of being homeless. And not all of them put themselves in that position. Not all of them act irrationally. Not all of them are on drugs. Some of them were like me, one paycheck away from being homeless. Think about it. So before you go and judge someone, remember, you could walk in their shoes. Before you look at someone with this side look of, what? That would never be me. Think about it. It could be you. It could be you, maybe not living in your van like me, maybe not living underneath the bridge, but living in a family's home, living with friends, living in a shelter like I did, like my children did. It could be you. So when you find someone that's homeless, that's begging on the street, I know a lot of us say, well, you know what? I'm not going to give them anything because they could be homeless and begging on the street because they're an alcoholic or a drug abuser or what have you. My understanding is it doesn't matter what that person do with the finances that you give them. If you're blessing them from your heart, God blesses you from His heart. It doesn't matter to me what that person is going to do with the dollar or $2 I give them, or even a handful of food that I give them, because sometimes I just buy the food and just say, here, may God bless you. Doesn't make me better than that person. Just makes me human. That's all. It makes me understand that, hey, been down that road, don't want to go down it again, but I trust God that He's going to get you out of it. So bless someone that is less fortunate than you are. Bless someone in need and trust God that the gift that you give them will help them and that they may not do anything to hinder themselves any further. Some people need a little more helping hand than the finances. And I trust God that some of those opportunities will come to pass for them. And that's all I want you to do. Just be a blessing to someone. Don't just judge them because of the surface things that you see in their life, because of the clothes they wear or the shelter that they don't have. Don't judge them. Help them. Help them like someone has helped you in the past. It may have not been on the scale of being homeless, but someone helped you with something that you needed. Help them. And trust God that the help that hands that you give, it'll come back to you 100-fold. So I want you to be blessed today. And I pray that this talk about being one paycheck away from being homeless will make you think and look at people in a different light than what you recently did. That it'll put joy in your heart and a willingness in your spirit to bless them. I pray that God builds your better understanding and help you grow in the area of helping someone. Because we've all been down that role of being selfish and thinking it's all about me. It is not all about you. We're all in this together. Yes, some of you may have your lives in order and have your money stored up and have a beautiful home. Have friends and family around you that love you, and all of that's a blessing. But remember, it can change. The banks can foreclose. The house can be foreclosed on. Friends and loved ones will walk away. And I don't wish no bad thing on no one. I just want you to understand how easy it is to fall in this situation. So I trust God that you remember that we are all human and that we all need each other and that we should not judge each other because of what we have or do not have. So you be blessed today. In Jesus' name. Love you with the love of God. Thank you. Please subscribe and share my channel. Thank you.